Have you ever wondered how people choose names for their pets? Some dogs and cats have such cute names, and some you just kind of wonder. So let's go exploring on how to choose the perfect name for your pet.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Val Talks Pets, the forum for pet parents and enthusiasts alike. Having been in the pet industry for over 10 years now, I'm going to share with you issues and questions that arise as I work with pet parents on a day-to-day basis. I am not a veterinarian, but I do have certifications in canine, feline, small animal, fish and herptile, and avian health and nutrition from the University of California, Davis Extension.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Val Talks Pets. Have you ever wondered how people choose names for their pets? Some dogs and cats have such cute names, and some you just kind of wonder. So let's go exploring on how to choose the perfect name for your pet. When it comes to naming a pet, I have to say I really struggle sometimes. And if you have ever had a registered dog, you have to come up with a name that is accepted by the CKC or AKC or the Kennel Club in the UK or the equivalent in your particular country. Then they have what is called a call name. This is the one you use for every day that is shorter and easier to use. I've had 2 registered dogs. One was a Samoyed that I wanted to register as Snowdrift. Well, it turned out there already was a Snowdrift. So I had to either choose a different name or go with Snowdrift the second. Well, I went with that. My Rottweiler was also CKC registered, and I was all set to name him Panzer with his kennel name. So he would have been Panzer von whatever, etc. Well, that went out the window because there already was a Panzer from that kennel. He ended up being called Mauser. I've also had quite a few foundling cats. One cat I had was somewhat feral in the beginning, living in the garage. With lots of perseverance, I eventually got him in the house, and he became the most amazing cat. He was strong and independent, lived on the street for however long. And because a movie had come out at the same time that described this, he became Greystoke. Yes, Greystoke, the legend of Tarzan. It helped that he was actually gray. I also had another cat whose name was influenced by a movie, and he too was a stray, big cat, and he ended up being called Smeagol. Now, my cat MJ had passed away, and then Smeagol passed away, and there was a little female orange cat that flew into the barn where I was boarding my horse at the time. He too has passed, and hid in the hay room for quite a while. She eventually started coming out, and she was so dainty and sweet. I said I thought she would be more of a cat in a home than a barn cat, and so I was given the go-ahead to take her home. A female orange cat was a bit of an anomaly, so I named her Esme. Esme, short for Esmeralda, was a character on a favorite show I watched called Hamish Macbeth. Esme was the school teacher who had brilliant red hair, and I just thought of her and named my little orange cat Esme. A few months later, at the same barn, one of the cats had kittens, and I thought Esme could use a friend. So I took one of the kittens, who was a gray tabby, and his name was a no-brainer. On the show, Esme Murray has the local grocer as her boyfriend, Rory Campbell. Hence, the new kitten was named Rory, and he is the one I speak of today. I don't know if I have followed some of the suggested rules for naming a pet. According to petfinder.com, the name you choose has to be something meaningful, but also practical. The name you choose is key to communication. You use this name every day. And as they say, the name has to be practical because the dog, for example, learns through repetition and association. They have some key tips to think about. Number 1, keep it short and sweet. Choose a name with 1 or 2 syllables. Shorter names are easier for dogs to recognize and remember, especially when used consistently during training and daily life. Number 2, use hard consonants and vowel endings. Names that feature sharp sounds like K, T, or D, for example, Rocky, Kona, Sadie, are easier for dogs to distinguish. Vowel endings also help catch their attention. Number 3, avoid confusing sounds. Steer clear of names that sound like common commands. Kit may be too similar to sit, while bow can resemble no. You want your dog to clearly understand when you're calling them versus giving a command. Number 4, get inspired by your dog's traits. When wondering how to choose a puppy name, observe your dog's physical traits, like Coco for a black-colored dog, breed heritage, like Coda for a husky, personality, like Zippy for an energetic pup. Number 5, think long-term. Names like Tiny might not age well for a puppy that grows into a large dog. Choose a name that will suit your pet in adulthood. Number 6, avoid similar names in the household. If you have other pets or family members with similar sounding names, avoid overlap. A dog named Mia can get confused if you have a child named Leah. Number 7, test the name. Try saying the name out loud multiple times. Is it easy to pronounce? Does it feel natural to call out in a park or vet clinic? If not, consider an alternative. These are great suggestions from Pet Finder. When we got Tundra from the shelter, he had been named Elijah. He probably had a totally different name when he lived on his First Nations reserve, but no one knew what that was, so the OSPCA, upon intake, named him Elijah. I don't know why. Now, he had been in the system at 2 shelters for just under a year because of his medical condition. You would think he would know his name very well. Well, he didn't. You could call him Elijah all you wanted, and he really took no notice. Once we were given the all clear to adopt him, we started the process of finding a name for him. We tried all kinds of names. We tried Lord of the Rings characters, Inuit words for snow, Game of Thrones characters. Nothing resonated with us or him. So with a bit of frustration, I said, why don't we just use some kind of wintry name? He is half husky after all. Hubby said, well, like what? I said, I don't know, Tundra? Well, didn't he lift his head and look right at us? That was it. And he learned that name within 24 hours. Maybe it sounded like his original name. We'll never know. Tundra didn't react to Elijah, maybe because it didn't have what Pet Finder was saying, a hard T or too many syllables. There is a thing that they point out called learned irrelevance. I don't think this is what Tundra was experiencing, but it is when a dog hears their name frequently, but it's not consistently followed by something meaningful. If you say their name over and over without pairing it with attention, rewards, or other positive action, your dog may come to view it as background noise and ignore it altogether. At one time, dogs were named with classic names like Fido, Spot, or Rover. Petful.com points out that after World War II, dogs started to be named more with people's names. This reflected pets having more human-like status. Petful gives a list of what researchers found influenced people's choices for a pet's name. 25% of people looked to popular culture, such as musicians, actors, sports stars, or celebrities. 22% of pets were named after non-famous people, Max, Ben, etc. 20% were named for something about their character or appearance. Fluffy, Spot, Patch, Shaggy, etc. 19% were named for something to do with the pet's origin or an object. Pumpkin, Biscuit. I think we can all see how pop culture and movies influence names. How many Pungo named dogs were there after 101 Dalmatians? Frozen certainly created a few pets named Elsa, Simba from The Lion King, and of course, Yoda. I hear a lot of pet names every day, and I have even heard Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. We almost went that route too. In terms of the popular names over the years, I can pretty much pinpoint the names I hear a lot. Personally, I would want to avoid these because I would hate to call my dog where there are other dogs and have a response from a dog that isn't mine. There are a lot of Bella dogs, Abby, Molly, Maggie, Marley. In cats, there are a lot of Chloe, Angel, Luna. Now that's dog and cat. Sasha, but less repetitious of the names in the cat compared to dog. And just like Petful said, there are a lot of human names too. Toby, Joey, Betty, Rosie, Archie, Sammy, Bernie, Sadie, Daisy. The list goes on. Some of the more interesting names I have heard over the years include Gandalf the cat, Cinder, Jellybean, Whisper, Dickens, Cordelia, Banjo, Bondi, and Pippin, to name a few. Sometimes we get a chance to ask people what the rationale was behind the name they chose, and often it's something just like discussed earlier, a character they liked or a personality trait. Some people do say that they just kept the name the pet had originally when they adopted. But as petfinder.com points out, you needn't be afraid to change a pet's name from the previous one they had. In fact, it could be a really good thing. As they point out, if your dog came from a neglectful or abusive situation, a name change can symbolize a clean slate. A new loving name becomes a part of their healing journey and your bond together. Changing the name just takes practice, patience, and training by using positive reinforcement and consistency. Don't forget, often cats and dogs, especially cats, come into the shelter system as strays, so no one knows their name. The shelter staff just choose names that go on their kennel information, but most likely the cat or dog really doesn't know that name. There are surrender situations where, of course, the pet knows its name. You would have to just decide whether this is a name that you feel comfortable continuing to use. Exploring name ideas can be really fun, but at the same time a bit frustrating when you just can't hit on the right one. It takes time. Personally, I like something a bit different, but some people just like to go with the names they have heard or a people name. It really is a very individual choice. My friend inherited an older Westie, and he has his name. When we looked after him for a week, hubby called him Wee Jock because he is a Westie, and that is a tried and true name for a Westie. We knew this little guy was deaf, so it didn't matter, and there wouldn't be any confusion. It was fun. When it comes to naming your pet, there are a lot of online suggestions, or you can use other methods of coming up with a name. All in all, it's what works for both you and the pet. So do a bit of research and apply some of the techniques suggested, because as I say, knowing is caring.
Thank you for listening to Val Talks Pets. Please remember to follow or subscribe to ensure that you never miss an episode. To really help the show and to make it easier for others to find, please rate and review each episode that you find interesting and helpful. And don't forget that you can also email me at val@valtalkspets.com with topics you would like me to address or with any questions you may have. Also, check out my website at valtalkspets.com and let me know what you think and how we can improve upon it. Thanks for caring.